Welcome to our first day of Rhetoric Bootcamp. Expect that muscle called your brain to be hurting when you're finished. Let's go. Here's our lesson focus. You will understand how rhetorical analysis differs from literary analysis by creating a one-sentence analysis. Ooh, I just said analysis several times. Now, if your end goal is to create a one-sentence analysis, that's harder than it sounds. You only get one sentence. You have to make it really, really good. Let's see. It starts with the rhetorical triad. This is not about fiction. No fiction allowed in a class on rhetoric. We study how real speakers use messages to send messages to real audiences to get them to do what they want. Purpose drives their choices. All of this happens in a historical and a social context. We are studying the real world. We use the triad so we can figure out what methods did really great. Rhetoricians, authors, what did they use to get what they wanted? Then we get to turn around and do the same thing. For example, let's imagine that we have a speech to write. We know we've got three choices. We can choose our words. We're going to choose our words carefully. We can arrange our words into sentences. That's our syntax. We can punctuate those words. All of those are choices we can make. Maybe we think, I'm going to repeat important words to my listeners. That's a good strategy to use. I'm going to use repetition. Now remember, we will be actively listening. Turn your TED Talk graphic organizer over. Take a few notes. Remember, no passive copying. Turn the info into your own words, draw connections or even symbols and stick figures. Your job right now is to revise that graphic organizer. Turn it over. The expectation is that you show growth. First, let's get rid of the not so great stuff. Find 3 places where you use vague, general, or repetitive language. Cross through it. It's okay to be messy. Now, let's examine some of the boxes. We're going to learn how to revise and do an even better job. For tone, pay attention to the speaker's tone of voice. Look at what you wrote. Don't confuse the topic grit with her tone. Don't remember her sounding gritty. I think that's more like my grandfather. Now, look for 2 different but complementary tones that work together. Don't use vague general words. Break out the thesaurus. Find some specific words that capture all the nuances of Duckworth's speech. Let's also look at the top right-hand corner. Those verbs are just a starting place. All texts inform, but that isn't the primary purpose of most. A dictionary informs, but a stop sign informs us that we had better stop now. That makes it more than persuasive. It's a command. A dictionary informs passively, but a stop sign persuades us, even commands us to stop. You are looking for words like that. Let's also talk about the box called List 2 Details. Most of you probably wrote general statements about grit or the growth mindset. Now, details and generalities aren't different. They both state facts. What they differ in is in terms of degree. For example, Duckworth uses details about children at the National Spelling Bee and cadets at West Point. That's rather detailed. Those are details about specific members of a group. In this case, the group called human beings. Now, from those details, we draw conclusions. These are the generalities. These research subjects both show the importance of grit. So if we look carefully at the details she chose, why choose children and cadets? Well, it's obvious. She wants us to conclude that people young and old both need grit to be successful. Okay, now we're going to help you make those revisions and make them good. The expectation is that you show growth by replacing some of your original choices with more insightful adjectives, verbs, or details. Our job is to use academic discourse to help you grow. Now, if I call out your name, you're going to unmute your mic and you're going to talk. Everyone else, you're going to be talking, discoursing in the chat function. Look over those sentence starters. Notice how each starter leads to a greater insight. Listen actively to the class discourse as you generate your own revisions. One last thing. You're about to re-examine and rhetorically analyze a speech. It helps to know what all speeches have in common. Most speeches will use some type of repetition. They'll also use hand gestures. This is a TED Talk, so it's a multimedia presentation, so you know that they're going to choose some images carefully as well. Now, most speeches start with a hook. They want to grab your audience and end with a clincher, oftentimes calling you to action. And they're going to use tone carefully. Now, jot those things down and make sure that you think about what most speeches have in common as you perform a close reading of Duckworth's Grit.